this is a joint venture between the student assessment team and the ESC team with Rochelle. So we both take a hand in getting it. So I'm going to turn this over to my boss, Dr. Frank Gilbert, who has the daunting task of trying to keep Barrington Maxwell and I in line, which is very difficult sometimes. That's why he has no hair on top. But anyway, he would like to say a few words before we get started.
Well, good morning and welcome to another exciting day of assessment in Orange County Public Schools. It's hard to say that with a straight face, but that's my career, is doing assessment. And we provide for the district the mirror that allows the district and the stakeholders to see how they're doing. So every morning I get dressed and I look in the mirror and tie my tie and it looks just fine, or it doesn't, and I fix it. And then my daughter will come in and say, "Are you going to wear that hideous tie?" And so sometimes the mirror is not just for us, but for some of the other stakeholders to provide some of that feedback that we need. And it's been wonderful in my career to watch the progress of special education, because I remember when it didn't exist, when whatever happened at home, in basements, in attics, in closets, and we got those kids out, and now we are actively, reliably measuring their progress. And that is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So I appreciate what you do, and the value of what you do is important to those kids and to their parents and to all the stakeholders and to us as an institution, because you're holding up that mirror. And if we don't do the assessment right, it's like a funhouse mirror that distorts things. So anyway, thank you again for your efforts, and I wish you well. I turn you over to some of the best people in the state to deal with this. When they get stumped at the DOE, this is who they call and say, "How do we make this work?" You are very fortunate to have that, so thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. So with that, we're going to get started. Barrington and I are going to take over the first part. We're going to take you through the management of the materials and some of the logistics of that, and then we will turn it over to Rochelle for the rest of the presentation. So just how to get in touch with us. If you aren't happy with answers you get from Barrington and I, there's the information for contacting Dr. Gilbert. Here is my information. Now, because we handle so many calls and we've got so many schools now, Barrington and I have split up the district. We did this because at the beginning, when he first joined me in assessment, everybody was emailing both of us, and we were both answering the same emails over and over again. It really wasn't very efficient and was kind of slowing us down. So we have split up the district. I take the East, Southeast, and STO learning communities, along with alternative schools, the high schools A through J, and charter schools A through O. Now this does not mean that you can't call Barrington if you're in those districts, but we would prefer that you try to contact me first. If you don't get an answer from me, by all means, go to Bear. We are out of the office very little this time of year. There is a day or two here and there, and we try to make sure that we are not both out of the office, especially this time of year. And then we've got Barrington Maxwell, who is promising to grow back his beard. He takes the North, the West, the Southwest, and Innovation Learning Communities, high schools L through Z, charters P through Z, and the CTE sites. Also in our department, we have Jeanette Figueroa, and you'll see that her email is thelma.figueroa, which is correct. She goes by her middle name. She does supports us. Bear and I could not work without her, But she also manages and processes additional materials orders. So it is important that you learn her, and if you have questions about your order, please contact Jeanette, because she's got the most up-to-date current information on where your order is in the system. And she also helps us maintain your user accounts. So if you do have a question about your account, again, it's probably faster for you to contact Jeanette than it would be to contact Barry. Katie, did you want to make an announcement now or wait before Rochelle goes on? Okay. Okay, so with that, again, you're going to contact us with questions regarding additional materials, questions about test security, about material pickup and returns, uploading of the writing response, and the templates to do that. So, you know, it's very kind of specific. If you have specific questions about actually giving a test, that's going to go to Rochelle and her team, and she'll talk to you more about that. Some important dates. The FSAA materials are out for delivery. Have they completed yet?
They start tomorrow.
Oh, they actually start tomorrow. They will actually start delivering tomorrow. So you will have those by the end of the week, I would think. You should have them. If it looks like it's going to go longer, we'll let you know. But as of right now, you should have them by Friday, end of day. The last day to upload student responses for elementary and middle is April 12th. This is an absolute drop-dead date, okay? You cannot go past that. The state does not do extensions, okay? Unless there's something big, a problem with the software, they do not look at extensions. So just make sure that you keep that in mind, and I would shoot for something several days before that. Do not wait until that last day, because if you end up having problems, the state's not going to look kindly on that. The last day, the FSA deliveries for high school, we are shooting to have them in your schools before spring break, but it's going to depend on the delivery schedule or when we actually get them, as to whether we can get them out. If we get them on the 15th, they won't come to you until after spring break, okay? It just depends on when we get them. As soon as we receive them and as soon as we have them turned around and they're ready to go out to you, we will send an email out, okay, on that. So just be aware that we're shooting for right before spring break, so you've got them in hand, could start working with them, and then you're ready to start working with them as soon as you get back, but we will let you know. And it also depends on what else is going on in the district, okay? Because again, we aren't the only ones that they serve, that the delivery people serve, so but we're keeping our fingers crossed. They know it's coming. They're ready for it. We just have to see when it shows up. And again, for high schools, the last day to upload, April 26th. Make sure that's on your calendar. Again, you must have everything uploaded by that date. And the last date you need to make sure you've got marked on your calendars is we're going to be picking up materials for everybody on March 30th. April 30th. April 30th. Okay, that's the date we're going to start pickup. Your materials must be ready. Now, because of those dates when everything is due, there's no reason your materials should not be ready on that date. Testing is over. You've got several days for cleanup. Make sure you are ready. We will not send the trucks back for you. Every time they show up, we get charged for it, whether they pick anything up or not. We use independent contractors because our district warehouse folks can't do all the pickups. So if they show up at your school, I get charged for it. We're not going to go back a second time. We don't have that in our budget. So that means you will be responsible for delivering your materials out to the warehouse. And it's not just when you get them. You'll have to get them down there on May 1st. Okay? So get those on your calendar. Another really good resource for you is the FSAA IMS page run by my team, the student assessment team. This is where you're going to find the dates, the trainings that we're going to do. We are recording this, and it will be posted out on our IMS webpage. Also out there, if you look over in the red box on the right-hand side, that will down, I think it's the third batch of, isn't it? Yeah, it's the third one. The test security training is under there. So if you have not done it yet, and your teachers, that's where you would find it. And this is what it looks like. You can enroll in it. It's on a Canvas course, and then you need to take the course. So if your teachers have not done any testing, you need to make sure that they have completed this course before they actually administer the test. You are under the exact same guidelines as everybody else who's giving FSA and Access for L's test. Okay, the art, excuse me just a minute. The art administration and registration tools, this is the place where you're actually going to upload not upload your documents, but upload the information about your kids. We have entered all of you into the system as what they call the SLC, which is school level coordinator. Okay, so to get out there, your username is 48, your school number, the first two letters of the first name, and the last name. I know that, I don't know who came up with this, but that's what they asked us to do. So you are in there. Now, when I say you all, if you are the one that is getting the emails from us about FSAA, you will have an account there. If somebody is sending you the emails and you are not getting them directly from either Rochelle, Barrington, or myself, or student assessments, then you need to contact one of us so that we can set you up. Because right now we're using the communication list that we've been sending emails. Your username is that, and the first time you go in, your password is the exact same thing, 48, school number, blah, blah, blah. Once you log in, you'll be prompted to create a password of your own. Okay? So make sure that you go out there. It's the same link as it was last year. However, they completely reset up. So just because you had one last year, you will still have to go through this process. You can't use the one you had from last year. You'll need to reset it up. They completely wiped the system, and then we put all new in.
Isn't it a capital letter of the first name?
Oh, I apologize. Yes, it is. Okay, on that, the first two letters, they've changed it, so it's 48, school number, first two letters of first name, and the first one is capitalized, and the last name and the first letter is capitalized. So you'd put the caps where they belong on your name as you would write it. Thank you for that, Rochelle. Okay, you will be adding new students. They have loaded in the students that off of our system, but you will be adding new students, assigning students to a teacher, and then the teachers will be entering scores. You can also add teachers, and you can view the student assignments. Now, the first thing you're going to want to be doing is adding your teachers. And it's a very, very simple process. You go into add teachers, you'll go down to teachers, add teachers, and then it simply asks for their first and last name, the username you're going to, and you do have to type that in, so be careful with that, making sure you spell things right so they can remember it. And then it'll automatically assign them to 48 and your school, and then you hit enter. Now, it will not send them an email like it does in some programs, where once you set up an account, it automatically shoots them an email to that. You will need to let the teachers know that you have set them up and that how to get in. So you just tell them, here's your username. You use the username as password first time in, and then you set up a new one. Okay, adding students. Here's the information about looking up students. You will need to add any new students that you have gotten that may not be in there. Again, we're not talking about a lot of kids. I wouldn't imagine very many of you are going to have to go through that process. One of the important documents that you need to have, and do you have that one, Rochelle? I did not bring mine.
I'm sorry, what document?
Yeah. The first time you go out, you will need to get, and I believe the link is at the end of the process, but the how to maneuver through art. And it's very good. It's very easy. It's one of the simplest programs we deal with, as far as there's not a lot of steps that you need to do. But you want to make sure you get a hold of that document, print it out, because you will need that for going through the steps of putting in your students, and then also creating assignments, attaching those kids to the teachers. Okay? Because until you do that, it does not, you will not be able to put your material, your scores in and upload the writing documents. The students have to be assigned to a teacher before it will let you do that.
Where's that document located?
I'm sorry, what?
Where's that document located?
Right there. It's on the portal, on there, and we will also have it uploaded on the IMS page, which would be the easiest place to get it. And we will have it out there this afternoon. So if you look at it anytime after, what, about noontime? About noontime, we will have it loaded up there and you can print it out. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn this over to Bear.
Thank you, Cindy. All right, so a few things. For grades 3 through 8 and ELA 1, there will be 3 forms, forms A, B, and C. For ELA 2 and the end of course exams, which is civics, biology, algebra 1, geometry, and U.S. history, there will be only 2 form types, form A and B. All forms of the assessment has about 19 items per content area. Then, of course, you have writing for grades 4 through 8 and ELA 1 and 2. And then also there's a writing prompt 1 and 2 across all the areas. Across all the forms. To find the administration materials for FSAA, here's the link, fl-alt.com/materials. When you get your materials, as Cindy mentioned, they will be arriving beginning tomorrow. I didn't want them to come today while you were here. So now you'll be back at schools tomorrow and they'll begin to arrive. Make sure you're holding on to the boxes that those materials come in, as those will be the boxes you use to return those test materials. As we mentioned before, all the materials will be picked up by April 30th, so that gives you a few days after the close of the window to get everything packed, and then we'll come by and get them. Make sure that the security of all your test materials are always upheld. Materials should not be kept in classrooms overnight. They should not be going home in cars overnight. It doesn't matter the reason or the excuse. Also, make sure all of your test administrators and proctors are signing the test administration and security agreement. That's very important. There are no new practice kits for the 2018-2019 school year. So whatever practice materials were used in the past, teachers may continue using that for this year, or they can print them from the portal. All right. Keep in mind that these materials are not secure because they're just practice materials. Test security. Of course, we know that this is a one-on-one assessment, the way it's administered. However, you want to make sure that the test security protocols are upheld at all times. Breaking those test security protocols would result in things such as invalidations, which is one of the biggest ones. And it could also lead to a teacher certification being revoked. So generally speaking, let's make sure that we are all adhering to these policies, not revealing passages. We don't want to go post them online or anything like that. No photocopying of test materials. If you need another test booklet, just order one. We will have plenty. If we run out, I have no problem ordering stuff. It keeps me from ordering stuff from Amazon. Also, make sure that you're not changing student responses. There are portions of the test where a student has to write or anything like that. Make sure that whatever they write, you leave it as such so that it can be uploaded as their work. Also, when you get your materials, make sure you are completing the chain of custody form. This is one of those documents that's found on that FSAA materials site. FSAA materials site. You can print it out and fill it out. What this document serves is it serves as showing who has access to the test materials. When you get your materials, you also want to make sure that you inventory everything that you receive. If you find that something is missing or not packaged correctly, make sure you notify Cindy or myself. Remember that being the test coordinator, you are responsible for the materials at all times, even when you're absent. So if you're going to be absent, make sure you know how those materials are going to be stored, who's going to be accessing them when you're not there. I recommend having another person as a backup to you that is aware of the test security policies and how to access the materials when you are not around. Also, keep in mind that no more than 3 people may have keyed access to secure materials. So when they're being stored, no more than 3 people should have access to the cabinet or room where they're being stored. For our secure documents, they will always have a security number just below the barcode as you see below. And even though there are several numbers listed, the security number is always at the bottom right-hand corner of that barcode. This is the number you're going to document for the materials, which test booklets have been assigned to which students and or test administrators. These are the documents you'll be using for testing, and notice that each of them have a security number at the bottom right-hand corner of the barcode as I just mentioned. You have the test booklet, the response booklet, and the passage booklet. Those are all secure materials. The security checklists are how we identify which students are using which test booklets. So of course you would fill these out based off of the test that's being administered. Make sure that when they are being filled out that they are filled out accurately. And then of course you'll need to record the test booklet security number on these documents. Again, these documents are available on the materials site, and we'll also have them available on our IMS page for easy access. In the event that you need additional materials, you can place an order on our FSAA IMS page. The form has been updated to reflect the materials and the forms that are available for the 2018-2019 school year. If you have a digital copy of this PowerPoint, you can click on the link, or you can go directly to our IMS page and click where it says additional orders. This year we only have one link for grades 3 through 8, as well as the high school. So there isn't two separate forms as we had in the past for ordering materials. Keep in mind, wait until you receive your action materials before placing an order. So even though the form is available, you don't have materials yet. So wait till you get your materials, wait till you have inventoried them. And if you need anything else, go ahead and submit that order. Generally speaking, once your order is complete, you'll get an email from Jeanette stating that you can come pick up your orders.
You don't want them calling.
You can call, but generally speaking, you'll get an email once it's ready. If you submit something, Jeanette generally tries to get it done as soon as possible. However, keep in mind that in the coming weeks, while this window is going on, she will also be processing orders for Access for Ls, for FSAA, as well as NGSS, which you probably don't really deal with. However, generally speaking, we try to get those submitted and turned back around to you guys as soon as possible. Generally speaking, usually a day or two. If it's longer than that, it's because we need to order something and we're waiting for it to come in. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a last day to order if we have students enrolling who are FSAA, or is there a last day cutoff?
Generally speaking, we don't usually give a last day cutoff. Of course, the last day of the window would be a little bit too late to get stuff. Generally speaking, I would say maybe 2 to 3 days. But then also keep in mind that the closer you get to the end of the window, the less likely we are to have what you're ordering. But generally speaking, we try to keep a good supply of additional materials because we know kids are coming in and going out every single day. Now, of course, as part of the ART system, you will have to upload student responses. Of course, we want to make sure that once you take out the pages from the booklet, that you're not putting them back in the booklet. I know it's a very common habit. However, when your materials come, if I don't see an envelope of student responses, I then have to go through the box to pull those out. Generally speaking, on average, when I'm at the warehouse, I have to open up almost all of the school boxes to pull out responses. That is very time consuming, and as much as I love all of you, I don't like being at the warehouse for more than a day.
It makes him very cranky.
So if you could please make sure to always remove the documents, don't put them back in the test booklets. That way it'll make my life and your life a little bit easier. Once you have the documents scanned and uploaded into the system, you can then just go ahead and put them in the envelope, which we'll be talking about in just a second. And then once they're in the envelope, you don't have to worry about them again until it's time for us to pick them up. All right. So what will happen is you'll scan the documents. Once they're uploaded, you'll put them in the envelope. The envelope will have a template that you can print out, which basically just says what it is and the name of your school. And then they don't go in the actual box of materials, just put it on top of the box. The couriers know to get the box as well as the envelope. Generally speaking, you're going to use a 9x12 envelope. Every school has at least one somewhere on campus. What you're going to do is you're going to print out the template. You'll either tape it or glue it to the front of the envelope, and then you'll put those written responses in them.
They actually have an envelope in their envelope. That's the district coordinator envelope.
Yep, or you can use that too.
Right.
Yes. What Cheryl was saying is in your wonderful packets, Sandy has one right there. There is a folded envelope inside there that says district coordinator only envelope. If you want to use that envelope and put the template on the front of that, we will accept that. But we don't take the district assessment coordinator envelopes, and I'll explain why in a few slides. So after testing, you'll need to gather, verify, stack, make sure that you have your security forms in order, complete the test materials count form, and then pack up your materials. So the first thing is you want to make sure that you are gathering your test booklets, the response booklets, passage booklets, the cutouts, and the cutout strips. Try to paper clip them so that they don't go flying in the boxes. Because keep in mind, you may be gentle with the boxes when you're packing them and transporting them through campus. However, when a person is given 4 hours to get boxes from 20 schools, they're not going to be as gentle as you are. So by the time I get the box, everything is everywhere inside. Make sure that you remove the oversized storage envelopes. You separate the writing prompt materials, which you would have already done, and put in the envelope and so forth like that. Make sure that you are stacking the materials in 6 distinct stacks. And the reason why you want to do that is because when you are following the directions for packing, it will make your life that much easier. Before you pack up your materials, you're going to count everything to make sure that what you received is what you are returning. And then this form, which is in your envelope right now, you will fill it out. It's the test materials count form. Basically, it's saying that I have this many materials and I'm returning this many materials. And then don't forget to fill out and sign at the bottom. Use a pencil when filling this out. There are times when we've seen you fill it out with a pen or even markers. But if you have to make changes, then you'll need another copy. And you probably don't want to drive all the way down here for a blank copy. So make sure that you are using a pencil so that if you need to make any changes, you can erase it as needed. All right, this is my favorite slide in the entire presentation. All right. It's kind of hard to see, but on page 26 of the manual, it has this diagram of how to pack your materials in the box. All right. So you start off with number 1, and you go all the way to number 6. All right. This is going to make me smile when I open your boxes and I see that they haven't packed this way. There are times when I do have to open a box, even if writing materials are missing, just simply to make sure that things are in check and in order. And if I open your box and I see that it's already packed correctly, then that saves me 10 to 15 minutes. All right? So please, please, please make sure you're following this diagram. It's very easy. Big stuff all the way down to the small stuff pretty much. And then, of course, if you can, the cutouts and so forth like that, if you can put them in an envelope that comes in that precious cargo that you received today, that will make things so much easier. On your boxes, you will need to put one of these labels on there. These labels are specific to your schools. They're also in the envelope that you received today. In the event, which in most cases you shouldn't need another label, but if you do, don't worry about it. I have a few extras. When your boxes get to the warehouse, I'll affix the label to your box. The only thing I do ask is if you don't have a label for your box because you've misplaced it or you have extra boxes, in the circle where it says to put the box label, well, it's not a circle, in the square where the box label should go, write your school name. That way I know who that box belongs to. And then I'll take care of it when I get it at the warehouse. So we mentioned earlier that we don't accept the district coordinator only envelopes. And the reason why we do that is because we have a different process for Orange County. In fact, many other school districts are adopting this same practice. So I don't expect that the district coordinator only envelopes will be lasting much longer. Basically, what you'll need to do is you will gather your security documents, the security checklist, chain of custody forms, as well as the test materials count forms, and you'll upload those to the site. Those documents normally would go into the district assessment coordinator envelopes. Then they go in the warehouse, and then if the state has an investigation or has a question about a document, then someone has to drive to the warehouse, look for the box, unpack the box, find the envelope, take out the envelope, look for the document. As you can imagine, in the summertime in a warehouse with no AC That's not a lot of fun. So because I like AC, we developed this so that the documents are scanned. Literally, I can find a document in approximately 3 minutes, and then I can provide it, and all is well in the world. And then I don't have to call you while you're vacationing in Paris, and it's 8 o'clock in the morning in Paris and about 10 o'clock our time asking you, where's this signed document? This particular guide, which is the security document guide, is located on our IMS page. It has all the information you need about how to scan those documents and where to upload them. There is a link on our IMS page. It says Test Security Documents. Just click it. It has this guide. It even has a little video that we did some years ago, and also a link to the page for uploading these test security documents. All right. Any questions related to materials for FSAA? Going once, going twice.
Okay, just,
Oh,
there we go.
almost.
I have one teacher in particular that insists that she can lock in her materials in her cabinet and that nobody has keys, and so it's like.
You can tell her to call Barrington. I will tell her absolutely not, under no circumstances should they be locked up in her classroom. And if she has a problem with that, then so sorry. But yes, you will keep the materials. I know teachers, because I used to be test coordinator, and my dear friend, hey Amy, how you doing? Amy knows exactly what this is like. We either make sure that they either come back to my office, they get locked up, and every day they would come back and pick up those materials.
I mean, again, I don't have.
Right.
I'm not the school testing coordinator, so I don't have access to a room that has only 3 people in it.
Right. So then what you can do in that case is you can have your school's test coordinator hold the materials. You don't have one at all? Oh, what school are you at?
Memorial.
Oh, okay.
My AP does it, so, but I do have a locked filing cabinet in my office that is, children are not in, you know.
Right, right. So that would work. You can put them in there. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, just a couple of reminders about materials. Please do not call us for materials. We have so many programs running right now that we have to have paper documentation of what you ordered. Jeanette does just her best to keep up with it, but without that, we will not order. So if you call us up and say, Cindy, I need these 5 booklets, I'm going to say, go out to the IMS page and fill out the order form. Also, when you call us or email us, please make sure you tell us what test you're talking about. Again, we've got so many tests running right now or getting ready to start. We're getting questions about FSA, NGSSS, ACT, SAT, iReady, as well as Access for L's and now FSAA. So please tell us what program you're starting with right off the bat. And also, I'd request that go out to your signature page on your Outlook and put your school name under your name. So often, all I get is a name. And if I have a question about what you've written me about, I now have to go look you up in the system to find out what school you're at. So please go out onto your signature page and just put your school name on your signature. It really helps us out responding to you, as well as your
Extension.
7-digit extension. That really helps us out, because if it's really lengthy, I may want to talk to you about the answer rather than just trying to write it out. So those couple of things would really help us out and help you out in the long run, because it's going to help us communicate with you faster and more efficiently. Sandy?
Okay, in art, last year, I recall I had a lot of seniors that were loaded in, and none of them had FSAA classes. Do we have to worry about removing those students from art, or do they just sit there, because that's what happened last year?
They will just sit there. You do not have to remove them, I don't believe.
I just
Yeah,
don't wanna
I'll double
freak
check
out
on
when
that,
I
but I'm
see kids
absolutely
not-
sure.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to remove them.
You should not have to remove them.
Awesome.
As long as they're not tested, they'll just sit there.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? With that, I'm going to turn it over to Rochelle. If you have any questions as they come up, feel free to email us. Barrington and I have another state conference call coming up, so we will be back upstairs. But again, call us with questions. Doing this wrong has ramifications, and we'd rather you ask than do it wrong. Thank you, guys.
Have a good one.
Here, would you grab my computer?
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Barrington did talk a little bit about the procedural manual. We don't give this out because it's like 50 pages long. And there's really a small section of it that pertains to the school coordinator and your responsibilities. It's like page 26 to, I'm going to send you the link to it because it's on the portal, and that's just an easier way. But if you are need to look something up, you can do Control F and do a search, and then it'll go right to that page since it's such a big document. He also talked about the document with how to load students in, and that's I think he's talking about the online manual, and it's like 200 pages. So I don't know, I'm not quite sure, but I'll find out from them. And if I can send that to you, I will. But there's a whole document that has lots of screenshots that'll help you get through the system. It's really not that hard. We'll help you. You can just call us on the phone and we can walk you through it if you need help loading your teachers in. Once you get the teachers in, you just click on a drop-down menu to pick which assessments those students are doing, and you should get through that pretty quickly. The thing about the high school and kids being loaded in there, but they weren't taking the assessment, we do have to know if they've deferred the EOC.
There used to just be seniors that only have CFEs, they have no FSAAs, but they're sitting there.
Okay, so even seniors do take FSAA if they're in the course.
Right, they're
So,
not in any
okay,
FSAA
so if they're
courses.
not in the course,
But
then
they're
no.
there, I just don't know
Okay,
about.
so I think that they may have just loaded everybody. But if they're in an FSAA course and there's an EOC, they have only up to 2 years to take the EOC at the end of the second year. So in the first year, they could defer, and you would have to go in, you're gonna have to assign it to a teacher. The teacher will go in, and the drop-down menu, she'll select, reason not assessed is the EOC was deferred. Okay, so that's our way of keeping track of those tests that have been deferred, because there's certain tests that students have to take in order to get their diploma. And so we want to make sure that they are taking that test before they graduate. And we do have a checklist. If you would like that, you can email me and I could send that out. Yeah.
I have a quick question. I have a senior that came in from another area, private school.
Yeah.
Does he have to take the 10th grade?
Mm-hmm.
He does.
Yes, if he's working towards the Access Point Standard Diploma, then yes, he needs to take just,
9th and 10th?
it's whatever's required for graduation for 10th, I think it's 10th that's required. Yeah. And Algebra 1 too, as well. But hopefully he's in those courses, or he's,
Senior English. Does he have his English credits?
right,
Private.
sure.
So
Okay.
he's not in 10th grade.
Right. We could talk about that separate, okay? I want to make sure to get through all of this. So just as a review, I know that, of course, you all know that there is the Florida Assessment Program. The majority of students take FSA, and 1% of the population takes FSAA. In the state of Florida, it's about 30,000 students. Here in Orange County, we have about 2,000 students that are taking FSAA. And FSAA can be divided into two tests. Most of our students that qualify for alternate assessment take the performance task. That is what we're talking about today. We do have a very few students that qualify to be eligible for data folio. And those students are students with the more significant cognitive disabilities. And data folio is something that's tracked all year long. So there's a baseline in September. There's a midpoint, which is November to December. And then there's the ending, which is actually right now. The third window, or it starts soon. The third window is going to coincide with performance task. Just an overview of the performance task, that it is a test that's administered to students individually by the student's teacher. So it's a one-on-one sit down with the student, and it does need to be the student's teacher that's the person that knows the student the best. Sometimes another licensed professional can be trained to administer, but that would be on an individual basis. If for some reason the teacher was going to be out, maternity leave all over the entire window, a speech clinician or behavior specialist, someone else at the school that's trained, that knows the student well enough, can administer the assessment. It is designed to show mastery of the Florida Standards access points. Typically, students are selecting an answer among 3 options. Sometimes those are pictures, sometimes words. We're going to show you just a quick sample of what that looks like. But students are able to use their primary mode of communication to respond to the questions. Students that qualify for alternate assessment, there is a checklist. And the IEP team is responsible for determining whether a student with a disability is going to be assessed through the administration of the general statewide assessment or FSAA. And they use the participation checklist to make that determination. The participation checklist can be found in this book, which is on the FSAA portal. And we have a link to the portal. It's below my signature. Every time I send out an email, there's some links below my signature, and one of them is to the FSAA portal. So there's lots of good information there, and you probably want to bookmark that site because you're going to go back to it throughout the assessment window. This just shows you that participation checklist. All 3 questions need to be answered yes in order for a student to qualify for alternate assessment. And then once a student qualifies, the team needs to also look at the data folio participation checklist. And those are more specific questions about the type of responding that a student is able to do. So if no is selected for any of the 3 questions, then the IEP team would just stay with performance tasks. That student would not be eligible for data folio. And the questions are like, does the student respond primarily through cries or vocalizations? Does it take somebody that knows the student to understand them? Are they able to eye gaze to an answer? Are they able to make any kind of a response? And if not, then they might qualify for data folio. If you have a question about whether a student should be taking data folio or performance task, please give us a call and we'd be happy to talk that through with you, okay? Because we want to make sure that we just have the right students taking data folio. If we ever are unsure, we want to err on the side of caution and stick with the performance task, because that will give you some good data, and then you'll know if that student scored 1s across the board, maybe they would be a student that is eligible for data folio. The The thing with Datafolio is training is done in the summertime, and we had a hard time getting teachers that needed it into the training. We are given the notice in May, and we send that out to everyone, but you know how May is. Things are crazy, and people don't want to think about going to training. So if you have a student that you think would benefit from Datafolio, that teacher really should get into training this summer. They are asking them to come back to training, so even if they were trained last year, they need to come back again this year. Okay, as I said, the student's teacher should administer the assessment. If that's not possible, a certified teacher or other licensed professional who has worked extensively with the student can administer, but that teacher would need to be trained. If a teacher has a family member in their classroom, they cannot administer to a family member, and you would need to find somebody else to administer. And also paraprofessionals cannot administer the assessment. The required teacher training is that, this keeps getting a little confused. In 2015-16, FSAA was a brand new test, and all teachers that were administering had to come in for a face-to-face training. Most of our teachers did that. They all came into face-to-face. So every year after that, all they have to do is the 3 online modules. Unless they choose to come back because they want a refresher, or possibly there was something at fault in their testing. We've had issues where somebody didn't administer correctly, they weren't scaffolding correctly, and we asked those people to come back for training. But typically, only our brand new teachers come in for the face-to-face training. But all those teachers that were trained in 15-16, 16-17, 17-18, they all have to do the 3 online modules. The teachers that come to face-to-face, they don't have to do those modules. So the module report will say no, that they didn't do those, that's okay. They didn't have to do them. They came to face-to-face, they're okay. Okay? Everybody has to do module 4. Everybody administering, whether they came to face-to-face or they're doing the 3 online modules. All teachers have to do module 4. And that module would actually be good for you all, because you'll learn more about the online system and just how it is that they enter their responses. That's just a flow chart of everything that I just said. This is, I just wanted to show you where that link is on the IMS to get to the security training that Cindy wants everybody to do. Oh, my light's not working. So it's where the arrow's pointing. Did they get handouts?
They had some, and then
They
he's
had-
gonna send it out electronically.
Okay.
Or actually, I think we are.
Okay. Okay, we can do that. So in addition to this test security training, which I have told teachers they need to do it, but with all the other trainings, they could have forgotten. So that is something that Cindy is requiring of them. But then they have to sign the test security agreement, the test administrator prohibited activities agreement, and the test materials chain of custody. I believe that's just for the coordinators to sign. But I believe those forms are in your gray envelopes if you picked up a gray envelope. If not, they're in the procedural manual. Okay, this is where the link is to get that procedural manual. So if you get the PowerPoint electronically, you should be able to click on it and get there. If not, click on my signature, below my signature. this is just a screenshot of the portal. I have put a button for the portal on my launch pad so that I can just always find it there. And I requested an FSAA button. So if you know how to add a button to your launch pad, you just click to add your own. There's like a little plus, the top of Launchpad, and then in the search for FSAA. You might have to find the link to put in that. You have to find the link, but then you'll always have it on your Launchpad and always be able to go back to it. Because on the portal, that is where you can get to the FSAA online system, which is where you're going to add your teachers in. Does that work? Yeah, so this link up here goes to the online system. The one that she showed you, that's the ART. It's also TAO.cloud, I think, TAO something. When from this page, you clicked Performance Task Portal. This is the Datafolio portal, but you go to the Performance Task, and then when you get to Performance Tasks, you can choose Teacher Resources, AAC, or SLC. Oh, it says AAC District Trainer Resources. So that's also where resources for you are, because that's where the procedural manual is. That's where the online system user guide is. And then this is the online system, and that will go directly out to the system, and that's where you're going to log in for the first time. When you set up your passwords, it has to have a capital letter, I think at least 8 characters, 8 or 10. It's got to be really long. And it has to have a special character. So I'm just telling you that ahead of time because it'll save you from like putting it in 10 times. Like you want to use your word go. It's not going to work. A number, right. Last year we gave everybody Orange County at the number 48. But this year she did them, you log in and then your password is the same as your login, but you will be prompted to change it once you log in for the first time. The teachers will want to know their password so they can get in the system. But just so you know, they don't have their materials yet. They don't need to be in the system yet. Okay? You can tell them to simmer down a little bit. Give you guys time to get those accounts set up. It won't take long. It's really not hard. Call us and we'll help you get them set up for you. But the teachers being anxious about wanting to get in the system it does take a lot of time to get this assessment completed and to get everything loaded in the system. I will give them that. That does take a lot of time. But right now, their first worry should be testing their kids, okay? Getting those assessments completed. Going in the system is just for them to check and make sure all their kids are there. They're not going to be ready to put anything in yet. Okay, that's where some of those important documents are. These are resources for you as well. This is on the AAC page, and it has, those are tutorials. I don't think any of them are very, maybe 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes at the most, but it kind of walks you through and you can see somebody adding students, how to add students, how to do those assignments. So in your spare time, if you want to watch those videos, they are helpful. They are basically animated versions of the online system user guide, so it can help you. And if you just, need to know how to transfer a student, something like that, you could just go to the one that you really need the most. Okay. It is a paper-based assessment. The teacher will sit down with the student with a paper book, and I'm going to show that to you in just a minute. And then at a later time, the teacher will input into the online system. So the student should not be there when the teacher's inputting into the system. That is just done with the teacher herself or himself inputting their information. Okay, there are 3 sessions, at least in ELA, 3 sessions. For the other tests, math and science, there's only 2. The test is administered a different way depending on which session the teacher is in. And the teachers have all been trained about this, but just so you'll know the vocabulary, if they ask you or say something about session 3, that's the writing assessment. And the book will be divided, so they'll receive a test book, and it will have all content areas that student is assessed in. Each student gets their own test booklet. The test book has everything that student will need. Then there will be other materials that are shared among students, and I'll show you those in just a minute. Okay, Barrington said this about the grade 3 through 8, and ELA 1 has an A, B, and C. When you give a teacher Form A test booklet, they need Form A auxiliary kit. Everything has to match. So if they get Form B test booklet, all of their other things have to be Form B. That means the response book, the passage book, the cards and strips, all have to be Form B. Okay. So this is to show you all the different pieces. There's a test book, a response book, a passage book, and the cards packet or strips packet. That is the one that is a maybe. It might be in some kits and it might not be. So sometimes they create, like this cards and strips packet has only 3 pages or 2 pages for these grades. Some grades may not have that at all. Some tests, for some reason, have the A has it and the B doesn't have it. It just depends. And there is a place called the document configuration page that'll tell you everything that's in Kit A, 6th grade, everything that's in Kit B, 6th grade, so you can go back and look at that, or you just call us and say, I don't have a strips packet. Am I supposed to? And we can look that up for you. So the test booklet is the one that all students will have their own test booklet. These are color-coded by grade level, so different grades, different colors, and it does tell them everything that they need. It has the whole, so this is their, it's called an item set. There's 3 parts of each item. The test book needs to be written in. This is for the teacher to record what the student answer was. She's going to record, or he, I keep doing that. So if you look over to the right, the student response column, that is where the teacher is going to record what the student answered. The teacher then takes this test booklet and goes to the computer to input everything online. They're not going to remember what the student scored. They shouldn't do 5 items and then go without having it in the book. If there's any dispute of scores, they're going to go back to this test book to look for any differences. We shouldn't have test books that aren't written in. Every one with the student name on it should be written in. This is just showing you that that's task 1, task 2, and task 3. So each item has 3 parts to it, and the teachers have been trained in how to administer all 3 parts of an item. Okay. The other materials are considered the auxiliary kit. These might come all shrink wrapped. So there is a response book. And that is where sometimes there's a picture, sometimes there's numbers, but this is what the student is going to point to tell his or her answer. These will be by content areas. So there will be, if this is third grade, it would be third grade ELA or third grade math. So that conceivably a teacher in one class could be doing all of the ELA, and a teacher in another class could be doing the math with the exact same kit. Okay, you would just have it signed out to two different people, which kit, depending on which kit it is. Because you get one of these kits for every 4 students at the same grade level. So if you only have a few students, that is not as hard of a thing. When you have a lot of students, you're sharing among teachers, and that can be a little more cumbersome. But lots of coordinators have kind of figured out ways to make that work. So if you have any questions, just let us know and we can help you with that. That's the response book. That's what it looks like inside. There's also a passage book that includes passages and passage graphics. Those are used for the writing portion. This is what the cutout cards and strips might look like. Some kits have them, some don't. Don't know why. This is just a chart that shows you which content areas at which grade level are assessed. And this should mirror pretty much what is assessed with FSA. Just as a reminder to my people in middle school, 7th grade assesses civics. It's considered an EOC. And all the EOCs in high school are EOCs, end of course exams, I know, but they're done in March. I don't know why. I know it's not the end of the course, but it's close. So last couple of years, a lot of people forgot about civics. They thought that it was coming at the end of the year and they didn't have to worry about that. But anyways, they didn't get any books, so they assumed they were okay. But if you have middle school and you didn't get any 7th grade civics, you need to request those right away. As soon as all your stuff gets delivered, say, I need this many civics books. Okay, just as a reminder, all of these EOCs are done the same time as FSA. The books are set up exactly the same. It is FSAA, but it is for the end of course exams. And those students take the exam. They can take an access course up to 2 years if needed. So I say that if needed, like we don't assume that all students on access points should have to take a course 2 years. But if they need 2 years to complete the course, they can have 2 years. At the second year, they have to take the EOC. So a lot of people deferred EOCs the first couple years. Oh, my kid's not going to take algebra yet. My kid's not going to take biology yet. And now it's coming to the point they're like, oh yeah, they are in algebra. They are in biology. It doesn't matter what grade they're in. It's the course. If they're in 12th grade and they're taking Access Algebra, they need to take the Access Algebra EOC. That's the only way they're going to get their standard diploma via access points also. So it's a good thing. And then if you are deferring, or the teacher is it's been decided that the student will take the EOC the following year, but the student's in the system, that test will need to be assigned to the teacher, and then the teacher's the one that goes in and marks it as EOC deferred. Teacher has to be able to do that. Any questions about the EOCs or? No. God. You can call us if you have questions, though. So Cindy also talked a little bit about CFEs. Those are the common final exams. So sometimes people get those mixed up with the EOCs. They're different. They were created a few years ago when the legislature passed some bill. There was some smart person that thought all students should have to take an end-of-course exam for every single course that they take in school. And I don't know. Anyways, we voted for them. When that happened, they called teams of teachers in and they worked on creating these. They were called EOCs back then, but then they changed the name to CFEs, Common Final Exams. So whatever general ed is required to take, because I know they've trimmed down the list now. You know, at first everybody had to be assessed in every single course, and then they trimmed it down because we were over testing our kids. And so then whatever they decided about for general ed is the exact same thing for our students on access points. So if they decided that in second grade they have to do ELA and math, we have a second grade ELA and math CFE. Okay? And I'm not the owner of those. I don't run those. I don't really do anything except remind you as often as I can that students on access points also take CFEs. Okay, I say this throughout the year and I still get lots of people calling in April and May saying, someone just told me my kids have to do CFEs. Like, yeah, yep, yes.
So is there a CFE for adaptive PE?
That's a good question.
There used to be, yes, yes, there is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a rubric.
Okay, so but
Yeah.
the coach, the PE teacher would be responsible for that.
Mm.
Are those documents that come through me?
They're
Actually online.
Yeah, they're all online right now. If you go to the assessment website on IMS, so when you go to the IMS, you know how the first button has curriculum, the second button is research, accountability, and grants. That's RAG, which is the assessment office. So when you go there, then there's a way to find the CFEs. One of those columns on the right had CFEs, or might be student assessments, and that, yeah, CFE outlines. So all the courses are listed there. A lot of them are rubrics, so it's like what they should accomplish by the end of the year, and the teacher has to keep data, and you're just like transferring into this rubric.
I just want to know what my role is in this, and do I monitor the adaptive PE teacher to say how to administer the POCs? Do those documents come back to me? What is my
So, that depends on how your school sets it up. Like at most schools, the testing coordinator is handling the CFEs. I'm sorry. Yes.
So I think what she's asking is her responsibility. Her responsibility is that you have to go and print out you get the rubric, but you print out the sheet that the adaptive PE teacher helps say. So you print that sheet and you give that to the teacher.
But yeah. Somebody should be in charge of that, though. There should be a point person at your school that's in charge of CFEs. And sometimes they might throw that to the alternate assessment coordinator. I don't know how the school itself is handling it. Do you all handle CFEs, or is it your testing coordinator? Testing coordinator. Okay. So, yes.
So I have a question about this adaptive PE. So they're going to be handled at schools, or does our school have to take care of it as the hospital? Because they fall underneath our umbrella. So I'm wondering, is it going to be taken care of at the schools for the PLCs? And I know Carol did it last year, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
The adaptive PE person is the one
At
who's
the
got to fill out the rubric.
Right.
Okay, the teacher, but it will be taken care of, like, if they go to Colonial, it will be taken care of at Colonial by someone, or does it need to, like,
Yeah, it should be. It should be at the school. They should be handling that.
They take classes at.
It wouldn't be wrong for you to mention to someone, hey, have you all heard about CFEs?
teachers next time we have a meeting, but,
Right.
we hardly ever have a meeting with them.
Yeah.
We're way over on the west side of town, and they're over.
Right. So some schools did them in December if they had half one semester courses. Did somebody handle that at Hospital Homebound?
You know, we test everything K-12,
Sure.
and that was just like one we never even thought about, so.
So we could talk.
It was never on Carol's list of stuff that we
Okay. Oh, that's good. Okay. But see these people right up here, Michelle Paul and Casey Liebersat, they're in charge of CFEs at the district. So they're like the Cindy Landers of CFEs. And they were the ones that developed the rubrics with the teachers. There were teachers called in, and they created it with them, helped them to, to set that out for the year. And so they would be people to call and ask questions of. They're really nice, and they'll help you.
Rochelle,
Yes.
are you gonna address the high schools and how to do the waivers for these access points? If they don't get the 4?
Okay, it's not 4, 3, or 4. They can get a 3. 2 is proficient.
So, but there's no form.
It's the same form as any other student getting,
FSA on the form.
yeah, add a little A. It's the same thing. Yeah. So I did send an email to Tawana Lee Wenz to ask, when that's going to be, because, okay. Okay, so it all goes through them, though. So,
There's been no direction for the high schools to do this. You know how to take care of the FSA part, but the FSAA was not doing that.
right, and it's going to be just a very similar process. There's nothing different. It's the school deciding what types of things they would put in a portfolio, what's going to show that the student met the goal at their level.
But the form you're saying right now is the FSA form?
I believe so, but I'll find out. Write a note about that. No, we'll check on that. Waivers have always, our students have always been allowed to have a waiver. So they definitely can, and if we want them to get their standard diploma via access points, we should definitely be advocating for that. That's why the standard diploma was created for them. Okay, just to let you know, there is a flow chart that the teachers have. They've all been trained in how to administer. So I showed you how there was task 1, task 2, and task 3. The teacher only progresses to task 2 if the student answers correctly at task 1. And they only progress to task 3 if the student answers correctly at task 2. So that's the adaptive way of going through. The majority of the assessment is made up like this. But then there is a session 2. There's 3 sets, or 3 item sets, where the questions are asked whether the student answers correctly or not correct. So the teachers know about this, but just to let you know that there is a different way that they're administering those next 3 items in session 2. And then at task 1, in both sessions, the teacher is able to scaffold if the student answers incorrectly. The scaffolding is the process of taking away one of the incorrect response options. The one that the student answered incorrect is taken away. But if the student doesn't respond, then the teacher would just take away the first item on the left, or cover up the first item on the left. So that once this process happens in session 1, you would just go on to the next item set. But if you're in session 2, you would still do task 2 and task 3. So I know that sounds confusing, but the teachers have been trained about it, and there's lots of little tutorials that they can watch if they forget how to do it. The online system itself will let them know if they've done something wrong, because if they did not scaffold or the student answered incorrect and they didn't go to the next item, the system is going to be like, not in the right spot. So it will correct them, and then they'll have to go back and retest that with the kid. The sessions are indicated in the book that it's changing with the big stop sign, letting them know that that it's changing and that they're going to be answering in a different way or presenting in a different way. It doesn't matter if you administer science before math or math before ELA. That is up to the teacher and up to you and how you're handling those materials. What does matter is they have to do session 1 before they do session 2, and they have to do 1 and 2 before they do session 3 if it's the ELA. Okay, there are 2 writing prompts. Barrington did talk a little bit about the document, but I just am going to talk about how they are going to do the writing. Writing prompt 1 is a selected response. There's a passage read to the student, and then 5 questions are asked. All 5 questions get asked of the student. Writing prompt 2 is an open response, and that's the one that has the template that will need to be input into the system. So it looks like this, or there's an outline a little bit different for 9th and 10th grade. This is cut out of the back of the test booklet. Okay, so it's like the very last page. It must be cut out of the book. No teachers can say, my kid doesn't write, and so we're not doing this part. Nobody can say that. It must be turned in. Every student needs to have the opportunity to respond to this template. And it really is kind of a systematic way of asking them questions, and then there can be response options that they're choosing from. They can choose from 2 options. They can be pictures, they can be words. They can speak it, and the teacher can be the scribe. And I'll talk about that in just a minute, but I just want to make sure to tell you that that is torn out of the back of the book or cut out, and every single student gets the opportunity, whether you're scribing or how they're answering, it needs to be turned in separately in the envelope that he's talking about. As far as uploading that into the system, the teacher's going to do that, not you. And I know that was a little confusing in some of what Barrington said. You are uploading security documents to the TDM, which is different. This template, the teacher will upload into the system, or the teacher can type into the system whatever is written on here. Okay, there's 2 different ways that can happen. And I'll send out more information about that as we get into it. And, I don't want to confuse you too much about it, but the teacher really handles the writing. Okay, that's just the flow chart for writing. Okay, so writing prompt 1 looks very much like the whole rest of the assessment. It has the same materials column, teacher script, and a student response column. There is no scaffolding in this, in writing prompt number 1. Okay, so there's never a time when the teacher's covering up an incorrect response. All responses are provided. If the student doesn't answer, then the teacher can select no response. There's a place to select no response, and then just go to the very next question. So it's 5 questions. Okay, for the open response, that is more of a scripted, systematic way of presenting an item. And it has like a description up there and then a big teacher script. And the first thing in the teacher script is like, you're going to write a passage about things that are busy at night. You will include a title, an introduction, supporting details, and a conclusion, and you will use information from this passage in your report. Then the teacher reads the passage to the student. Then the next box says, here's the title of the passage, and you're pointing to the title, of the passage, sorry, it's in the other book. Here's the title. What will you make as your title? Okay, so you're showing them the title and then pointing to the blank space. And then the student is able to select an answer. They could speak it and the teacher could write it. The student may be keyboarding and he could write it on a keyboard, type it on a keyboard. The student may write and it may not be very legible and the teacher might have to annotate it to write what the student wrote above the student's writing. So this is the way that the teacher is going to complete this template, and then she's either going to type that into the system or scan and upload that form. Okay, on the top of this template, it needs to have the name and FLE ID number of the student. So FLE ID, do y'all know what FLE ID is? Yeah, that's that new Florida identification number, not student numbers anymore. It's FLE ID. It's on the federal information page in SMS. If you have a question about that, just send me an email and I'll answer it. So this is considered the official record. It is secure. And so if it's scanned and the teacher uploads it, there's a digital file that's still on her computer, hers or his. It needs to be deleted, permanently deleted from the computer. And this paper document is the ones that are going to go into the envelope that are going to be returned to Cindy and Barrington with your alternate assessment materials in their own envelope with that cover sheet that he showed you. And I have a picture of it here too. The envelope stays outside of the box, not in the box, out of the box. Okay, this is just an example of a student that might have a communication system, and they are able to use whatever communication system they use in their daily instruction to answer the questions. The teacher may need to make some communication pictures to use with the student. This is a student that is going to point to one of 12 options. This is a lot of choices for most of our students, and you'll mostly see maybe 3 options. So the student selects the first word in the response, and then the student selects from 3 different pictures, can select a different word. There is a video on the FSAA portal. It's called the writing prompt video. It's about 10 minutes long, but it'll show you a teacher working with a student and how the student selects the pictures and the teacher puts it on and then reads the whole passage back to her. And that's a really good video just to see what it looks like. So scribing can be used. I said that. If the student can tell you his response, his or her response, the teacher can write that down, and the teacher acts as the scribe. IEP documentation of scribing protocol is not required for FSAA. FSAA, students taking FSAA are allowed all accommodations that they're given in their daily instruction. It does not need to be specified specifically in an accommodations spot on their IEP. I would think somewhere in their IEP, you could be reading it and read the PLEP statements and know that the student is able to speak and a teacher scribes what they verbalize. I would think you would see it somewhere in there that the student has limited ability to write or whatever. Those different things would be in an IEP, but it doesn't need to be a specific spot saying that the teacher's going to act as the scribe. Also, there could be some time that you might need a third party to be the scribe. Say it's a student with some severe behavior issues, or maybe a student that is signing and the teacher's signing, and the teacher wants a third person to read the signs and be able to write while she's signing to the student. That could happen, and that third party person could act as a scribe if needed, as long as that person is trained in what's it called? Proctor protocol. Okay, and they have to sign the security agreement just like everybody else. Okay, so that person could be a paraprofessional. This just talks about the different scribing protocol. You would do that maybe if the student is verbalizing their response, the student's gesturing, pointing to a response, the teacher could be the scribe. If the student's using sign language, the teacher could scribe what the student is signing. And if the student's using an AAC device. And all of this protocol is on page 60 in the teacher administration manual, which the teachers all have, and they should be able to go back to that if they have questions. This is just an example of annotating. So if a student wrote, but their writing is not legible to someone that doesn't know them, the teacher annotated the word animals above NLS. She didn't annotate night because that is pretty understandable. Again, NLS, the teacher annotated animals, BIZ, busy, at night. At night is pretty understandable, so they didn't annotate that. Any questions about that, annotating? Okay, if you were to do that, then that document would be scanned, but you could also type this. If the teacher wanted to type it into the system, they would type NITE and then NLS, and they would do their annotation in parentheses, okay? Because it's not about the handwriting. It doesn't matter what the handwriting looks like. The teacher's just going to write what the student wrote. Okay, some students may provide no response, and the teachers are going to record no response into that spot. Okay, maybe so the student's going to get partial credit. There's a rubric that somebody's going to score the student on. Not going to be you, it's not going to be me, it's going to go to measured progress and they will score the student, but there is a special rubric just for this. So we want them to get as much credit as they can. If they can do, point to one of the pictures, then we want them to get credit for that. This is an example of the 9th and 10th grade, how they have an outline first, and then that outline work is transferred into the lined paper. And the teacher is able to help the student transfer by cueing the student what should go next, asking the student, do you want to put this sentence next? Different ways. And this is a student that gestured. you can hardly read it. The students selected pictures of good clothes, clothes happy, good grades, clothes ugly, uniforms boring. The student responded by gesturing at those pictures, and then they put all those on they typed that in on the bottom one. Right now, the topics for each grade level are available for the teachers. They could have been working on these topics since October, actually, or November when they came out. I think it was November. So a list of topics is already available. They could have been starting to work on that with their students to get them communicating. It really is about them communicating, and we want to give them as much opportunity as possible. When the test comes out, there will be an additional list of words that are more specific to the assessment. And from that list, if the teacher doesn't already have these certain words created in a communication device or in BoardMaker pictures, they might need to create some additional words for the student if the student needs those words printed. So we did create a folder with some words to kind of be examples and get teachers started. We sent this out to them back, I think, right before the holidays or right after the holidays, one of the two. So it's a Google folder. If you go to Shared with Me and put in, I think, 2018-19 example visual supports, it will pull up the whole folder and each grade level. So they could be working on those now, practicing using some of those words in their communication. If a fourth grade teacher wanted to look at the fifth grade words just to get some extra practice, they could do that. Now we're kind of right next to the window, so practice time's pretty much over, but just so that you know, there are words available to them right now. And most classrooms have unique learning system that they have access to, and they also have access to symbol sticks, and those are symbols online, so they can create those words for them in that, or they could use BoardMaker. Measure Progress didn't create all of the words ready-made for the students because they wanted them using whatever communication system they're most used to using. So because there's so many different systems, they wanted the student using what's the most familiar to them. Some kids use BoardMaker, some use symbol sticks, some use PEC symbols. Everybody has different types of symbols that they use, and they wanted them using what they're most familiar with. If you have questions about this, please email us and we can help you get to them. So after the administration, like we said, they're gonna either upload that response or type the response directly into the system. This is the cover sheet that Barrington talked about. This is on the FSAA IMS site. And you'll just print that out, and I would glue it to that envelope that's in your envelope that you're not going to need, because you don't need a district coordinator only envelope, right? There are allowable accommodations for students based on whether they have visual impairment, hearing impairment, whether they're ELL students, and whether they have physical disabilities. And that is in pages 70 to 77 of the test administration manual that the teachers received at their training. So just to, I mean, any accommodation possible is probably allowable, but if you have questions about accommodations, please call me and we can check into whether they will be okay. You all heard about the unique accommodations form that had to be submitted for students with visual impairments, right? So I got 2. Just letting you know, through our whole district, 2 people are going to be making some adjustment for a student with visual impairment, where they're using puff paint and wiki stick so that the student can feel the graph. Any of those types needed to be submitted last week. But these are other accommodations that the teacher probably uses in her classroom. If it's a student that has a light box, or a student that needs real objects substituted for pictures. There's different things like that, and if you have any questions about accommodations, please let me know and I can help walk you through that. Ahead of actually administering, the teachers do need access to the test booklet. This is unlike FSA, where no one's allowed to see anything until they rip the seals and they open the book and they set the timer. This is different. Teachers do need access to the books. They do need to be able to highlight the scripting in the test booklet. It's going to help them to get through the test a little bit quicker if they can highlight the script ahead of time. Also, if they need teacher-gathered materials, there is a list of materials in the test booklet on the first page, and that has materials that they might need to use. It might say to gather 5 cups and have them count them and add sets or something like that. But they need to know ahead of time that they have to gather those 5 cups or 12 CD cartridges or rulers. Yeah, it should be things that are found within your classroom environment or their classroom environment, but they need to know ahead of time so that they can have those things gathered and have them ready for the assessment. Yeah.
When teachers have to return materials to the coordinator, is that all materials or is that only the test book? So the strips, is it every single piece that they check out from you, they return every single piece?
Yes. All parts of the test are secure materials and have to be kept secure. The actual objects, they don't have to turn those into you, but the other stuff, yes. Okay. You just want to make sure that they are assessing as accurately as possible. They can take notes in the test booklet. There is a survey that they'll be asked to fill out after they complete the assessment on all of their students, and that survey, they can give feedback on things that went well and things that didn't. Test security, of course, is most important. We don't want to be copying anything or giving information, saving things. All of the test materials will need to be accounted for, and if not, they'll come back and say, we didn't receive test number 10556, and can you find it? And seriously, we've gone looking for little pieces and parts of tests, so make sure that you are keeping track of all that. The students do not have to sit and take this test all at one time. Of course, that would be almost impossible, but some kids will be able to sit for 10 minutes. Some kids can sit for a half an hour. Some kids can do 5 items. Some can do 10 items. It's really individual according to the student. Like it really just depends. And some teachers, are good at just kind of bringing kids into the group and out of the group. We see it as part of your daily instruction and having kids assessed in their most natural environment, which would be the classroom. It doesn't have to be that way. A kid that's going to be thrown off by going into the media center, they've never been there, they don't know anyone there, and that's just going to set them off. You don't want to take them to the media center or take them to a strange place. So, you know, we've had schools where they provide subs for teachers and allow them to get all the testing knocked out as quick as possible. It's just hard because you don't want to over stress a student and then have them not do their best. So you do have to kind of rotate kids in and out. You have to not be too far away from your classroom so that you could bring one student back if they start showing signs of fatigue, and then take another one. Maybe in your office is a good, or student office, teacher office. The teachers are allowed to use their regular reinforcement strategies. Of course, they should do that, whatever it takes to keep the students engaged. And when they see that the students are not engaged, that's when they should discontinue testing. They have, we didn't talk about the day that the window opens for elementary and middle school. Cindy had her slide of when the materials were delivered and when the testing ends, but elementary and middle school, the window doesn't open until February 25th. So I know the materials are being delivered now, and that's fine if you want to count them out and let your teachers start looking at the materials, but they can't start assessing until Monday. Okay, so Monday the window opens and they have, pardon?
Next Monday.
Next Monday, yes, the 25th. So, you know that we have spring break in the middle of the window, so remember to count that in. It seems like it's a really long time, but if a teacher has 10 or 12 kids to assess, that it does take a long time to do it individually with one student. So they really need the whole window. Don't let the teachers tell you, oh, I'm not going to start until middle of March. I'll wait till after spring break. No, don't do that. Don't do that. And I'll tell you that the very last day of the window of elementary and middle school, when it was like April 12th and I was still here and Nicole was here, we stayed till 5:30 on the phone with 2 teachers that put it off till the very last day, and they were trying to get stuff in and they didn't know how to save the file. But don't let them do that. I would back that date up, you know, tell them it all has to be done by Wednesday. You can make your own date. And I can't guarantee that I can be here that night. I really, it wasn't fun. So like we said, everything gets entered into the system. That process is done without the student around. The student should not be there when the teacher is inputting into the electronic system. If they come back, if they have a question about somebody's scores, they're going to go back to that test booklet and look at the test booklet. So it does have to have all of their responses bubbled in. This is the online system user guide. This is where all the directions are for adding students, transferring students, attaching students to teachers. It's like 200 pages. It's so overwhelming. But what's good about it is if you save a digital file, save it on your desktop, and then you have to do a search, you can just do Control F and put whatever it is that you're searching for, and it'll go directly to that. That's the good thing. It does have lots of screenshots and pictures that show you which buttons to click. But it is basically what's in those online modules that are for the district coordinator. It tells you all the same things. I don't expect anybody to read this cover to cover unless you're really tired. You need to go to sleep or you're having trouble sleeping. That's So these are some of the common errors that happened last year and the year before. When the teacher goes in when you've already attached the student to the teacher and the test, then the teacher has to assign the form. So like she or he clicks a button to launch the test, and then it'll ask Form A, Form B, or Form C. And if the teacher doesn't click the right form, then the questions aren't going to match up as she goes or he goes to input. So it's possible that they could get through the whole test and not realize that they selected the wrong form, because some of the questions do overlap. There's some that are different, but some of them are the same. And so they could get to the end, and if they submit it, that's not good. Okay? If somebody submits a test and they tell you, oh, shoot, I selected the wrong form, then call me right away. So they say that there's no way to get it back, but there's a process. We would have to submit that to the DOE, and they would have to listen to our reason why it needs to be released, and then they would hopefully approve it. But that's only if there's enough time. If that gets to the last week, they won't do it. It takes time. It takes like 2 weeks to even get that process done. So it's best if the teachers just really check themselves and double check for the form. Sometimes they get through the whole assessment and they realize that they picked the wrong student. And I know they're very busy people. We're all very busy. So it's easy to just you pick it up, you thought it was Jason, instead it's Jackie, and you get through the whole thing and it's the wrong kid. Each page is supposed to have the student name up in the right-hand corner. Is that it, right? So they should notice it before they get to the end, but just in case they don't, there is a way that we can reset those tests as long as they haven't clicked the submit button. Also, you can't have a missing entry. They have to answer each thing. Even if it's no response, you're just going to put no response. And wrong answers entered into the system. I don't know. Okay, so this is the window. I took this screenshot from the teacher module. So they get this window when they go to launch the assessment. It asks them Biology 1, and of course, Form A, and it has the student. All of those things before they click to launch it. Okay, I think we said this already. This is the digital file. This is when the file is scanned and then you're loading the digital file into the system. You just have to remember to delete that file afterwards. Okay. I think I said all of this. Okay, this is when the teacher is actually typing into the system. For each spot, there's an open space. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, 4, and 5. And it gives a open space for each. And I think the year before was just a big open space and you had to type the whole thing. This is sentence by sentence, each component. This is something that is voluntary, but if you need to check on the fidelity of how the assessment is being given, there's a district coordinator or designee observation form. So when I go out and visit schools during the testing window, I bring this with me just to kind of check off and see that people are administering with fidelity. And if your principal would like to know, there's an administrator observation form. So that's available if needed on the portal. And it just gives the administrators 5 quick things to look for to see that they're administering correctly. Okay. So they just divided the online system into the registration tool and the student response entry. You don't have anything to do with student response entry. That's the teacher side of it, but you will get them set up with their accounts. Okay, so once the teachers are set up with the accounts, then you will have to communicate to them what their password is, their username and password, however you set up their account. And so if you can either follow, I think the reason that they wanted you to use the 48, your school code, the first two letters of the first name and the whole last name is to make sure that throughout the whole state, we're not overlapping numbers. So people in other districts aren't going to have the same username. And I think that at a couple years ago, they tried to use social security numbers. People went mad. It was crazy. I don't know why they ever thought they could do that. But so they're just trying to find a unique number username for each person because there are lots of Smiths or, things like that. So they didn't want to just use their name. But as long as within the next, like this week and next week, you get those accounts set up, the teachers could conceivably wait till the beginning of March to get into the system. If you get them set up right away and you want them to go ahead in so that you know if you've made any mistakes or need to do changes, you can do that, and that's fine. But I have lots of people that'll want to just know that, okay, 1st of March, that's when I have to get them in, and that's fine. So that gives you 2 weeks to get that all done so that the teachers can then get into the system. And when they get in, they're going to be able to say, hey, I've got this kid who's not taking biology, but he is taking ELA. High school people, you can assign different teachers to do different subject areas. So if you have a student that is in biology and ELA 10 and algebra, you can have a different teacher assigned to each one of those. Okay, so that's it. The window ends for elementary and middle school April 12th, but that's also the last day to put anything into the online system. So you could back those days up and say, well, our window at Colonial High School, or no, elementaries, our window is going to end on Wednesday, the 10th. That's when I want all of your stuff done, so that you have a little 2-day window to make sure everything gets in. Okay, and high school has until the 26th, but the 26th is also the day that everything has to be input into the system. Barrington talked about the practice materials, so I won't talk about this. Just about a lot of people call me and ask me for materials. I can't do anything for you for materials. It all has to go to them, okay? But we can help you, me and Nicole Como. I didn't introduce myself or her. Also Jenna Horton and Bonnie Siegel, they were here helping in the beginning and now they're gone, but we all help each other out. If I'm not by the phone, then somebody else will be. So just call and we can help you with anything. And our administrator is Katie Boyd. If you need to talk to somebody above my head, you can go straight to her. But her email is mary.boyd. Okay, so you call us for anything about the administration of the assessment, accommodations, Student-specific questions, participation criteria, that all comes to us. And specific if a test item just doesn't sound right, or there's something, it doesn't look right to you, the answers don't look right, whatever it is, give us a call and we will check on it. Okay, because sometimes they make mistakes too, actually. The service center is open extended hours during the window, so you can also call them and they will help you through anything that I can help you through. So that's available to you. If you call them and they can't answer your question, they're going to forward it or send it. What's it called? Escalate. Yeah. They escalate it to someone that knows more. Ask for a ticket number. Everything has a ticket number. So if you need to call them back again and refer back to your problem, if you have a ticket number, it works a lot better. These are just helpful websites. The FSAA Portal, our cognitive disability website. We have lots of stuff on there. We also have an OCPS alternate assessment website on the intranet, and that has the more up-to-date stuff. And then the IMS site, where Cindy's stuff is, and that's where the form is to order additional materials. So she doesn't want you ordering anything until you receive the materials that are supposed to be received. Really, we can't, like if you say, oh, I've got a couple new kids that moved in, I'm going to need some more third grade stuff. She can't order it until you count what you have got, and then she'll place the order, okay? Third grade is the grade that, for some reason, they always run out of. So make sure to count those as soon as you get them. When you get your materials, you really need to inventory all that and compare it to your list. Make sure you have what you need, and then start that process of ordering it through her. It's a Google Doc order form. I think I'm finished. Questions? Anything?
The algebra one was now have a student that moved into the junior, we talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
And he is from another state, so he has to take that grade 10 ELA just like anybody who has to. On the end of course exams, like algebra 1, he's already got algebra 1. Any other student that transferred in would also have to take that algebra 1 end of course exam if they've got the course from another state, and they have to have the course exam. Is that correct too?
They,
You know what I'm saying?
so,
If a student moves in a regular
right,
student
right.
moves in from another state, they've already got algebra 1, but
They took it and-
require end of course exam.
Right,
You're supposed to administer that end of course exam. Is that going to mirror for alternate assessment as well? Same thing for biology. Is that, I mean, not biology.
yeah.
It's algebra 1 that's the only.
Yeah, we're supposed to mirror what Gen Ed would do.
Also take the algebra 1 as well.
Yeah.
Grade 10.
Yeah.
Those are the two requirements.
Yeah. Yeah, and high school people, if you want me to check on whether a student has had tests in other districts, we can check other districts in Florida to make sure that, our kids can get their standard diploma. And we do have a checklist I can send if people want that. A little checklist. The form. Oh. No, I didn't bring any, but if you send it to me in the courier, I will submit for points. Yes. Canvas is where the training is. We have one training left on March 5th. But if you get a teacher that needs training, like you get a kid at the very last minute, call me and we'll get that teacher trained. But it's on Canvas, and just put in the search FSAA and it should come up.